Oh, this is a very interesting subject matter. It's titled Beware Danger at Security Checkpoints. I'd like to thank ABC News for exposing the thieves of the TSA. And further on in this presentation, you'll see a link to watch it yourself. But for those of us who travel the world, know very well at security checkpoints, our valuables are placed on a belt. Then they roll forward and go into the scanner out of sight and come out the other side. And the TSA agents are there to let you know whether or not you have something in your luggage that isn't allowed, and they will hand check it. But what made me decide to do some research on the subject of this particular spot in the airport, the checkpoints, was an experience a friend of mine had this week traveling from Tampa, Florida to Houston, Texas. And I quote, "I put my purse along with Jimmy's," her husband's, "briefcase in the bin, but I had to go through the circular scanner because of my hip replacement, and I just got a torn rotator cuff in a car accident prior to the trip and couldn't put my hands over my head. So a TSA agent had to pat me down, which took time. When the TSA agent was through with me, Jimmy and I were looking around for my purse. All of a sudden, we saw this black TSA agent with my purse. She was high up, dangling my purse to get my attention, and we went and picked it up and proceeded to the gate. When we got to the gate, we sat down, and I opened my purse, and it was clear as day that somebody had rifled through it. And then I looked in the side pocket where I kept my money, and a couple of $100 had been stolen. Oh, my goodness gracious. I was so upset, but we didn't have time to return to the TSA checkpoint because our flight was about to board. So that taught me a really good lesson. I will never, ever carry money that's not either in my pocket, dollar bills, that is, that are in my pocket. And that's the end of her sad story. But I talked to her later on the phone, and we both agreed that from now on, we actually would not put the money in our pocket, but instead we would put a lock on our purse so that we'd have to be standing in front of this TSA agent before it was open. And that would avoid any temptation on the part of an agent that might be dishonest. But this got me curious, and I decided to do some research. And I have to thank ABC News for the expose that they did about the TSA. And there is a link in this post for you to watch it. It's absolutely fascinating. A TSA agent at the Newark International Airport, New Jersey, admitted to stealing more than $800,000 worth of items from luggage and security checkpoints over a 4-year period. Quote, "It was very convenient to steal," he said, unquote. Speaking publicly for the first time after being released from prison, Brown told ABC News his 4-year-long crime spree came to an end only because he tried to sell a camera he stole from the luggage of a CNN reporter on eBay, but forgot to remove all the news network's identifying markers. The statistics about the TSA thefts are shocking. I got interested in learning more, so I did some additional research. How much does the TSA steal? Well, those statistics are not really known, but it's estimated that there have been more thefts than one would ever imagine, and that property valued in the millions and millions of dollars has been stolen at TSA checkpoints and by TSA baggage handlers. None of us worldwide travelers want to live in a constant state of paranoia. But, additional research was needed because I wanted to find out more information about how we frequent flyers could be more secure in our travels as far as protecting our luggage and our valuables. We need and want to provide deterrence to those who might be so inclined to relieve us of our valuable items. What is ironic to me is that my inclination is to assume that all airports are full of high security. Well, they certainly have an atmosphere like that, don't you think? Which in turn should minimize, or at least it made me feel like that would minimize opportunities for thieves. But alas, I was wrong. Unfortunately, during my research, I found the exact opposite was true. So I would like to help my fellow worldwide travelers with some very important tips about how to make sure that your stuff stays safe from the time you arrive at that TSA checkpoint and until you get through it, and that your luggage itself has a chance of not being fiddled with down underneath where you can't see it. Okay, some of these tips are obvious, but I'm going to tell them to you anyway so that they sink in. 1, always carry valuables with you. No exceptions. 2, keep your carry-on luggage by your side at all times. 3, check luggage should have nothing valuable inside like cameras or iPads, actually electronic equipment of any time. That just invites trouble. 4, I found this particularly interesting. If you have to check extremely valuable items, check it with a firearm. The suitcase must have a lock. All suitcases with firearms must have a lock, and not one that the TSA can open. Airport security is required to track luggage with firearms, making it less likely that your luggage will be tampered with. If opening is required, the TSA will inform you, and you will produce the key and open the luggage in front of them. The downside is that checking luggage with a firearm is a great, big, huge hassle. Number 5, and I didn't know this, but this is another interesting point. Do not purchase TSA approved locks because they are notorious for being opened easily. It's not illegal to put a non-TSA lock on your luggage. Now, this I didn't know. If your suitcase is a zippered one, that will make it easy for a dishonest TSA person, because zippers are very easy to pop open and then return to their closed position without touching the lock. A clamshell, a suitcase that clamps down like that and has no zipper can only be opened with a bolt cutter, which is highly unlikely that any person in the luggage area is going to have a bolt cutter. And only bolt cutters can open a clam shell suitcase. So keep that in mind. This one is very interesting. Do not buy a black suitcase. Buy one that is distinctive looking. It is likely that mistaken identity will happen if you have a black suitcase, because a thief can just come pick it up. They all look the same, But if your luggage is distinctive looking, then you will be in good shape, because there could be no mistaken identity for that piece of luggage. In conclusion, as one humorous article read online stated, and I quote, "If you are traveling around with the Hope Diamond, you'd better have it handcuffed to your wrist in a bombshell-proof case with GPS tracking and an armed escort. For the rest of us, it's logical to take security precautions according to the value of our gear and the risks of the airports we are traveling through." Well, I hope you enjoyed this piece. I sure enjoyed bringing it to you. So long for now. Until our next get together, remember, the only trip you'll regret is the one you don't take.